Gas up the Jeep, it's good to be free. Load up the pans and fishing poles. The highway is long, the wheels turning round. Pack up the cook stove and the bowls. Arlo and I, we hit the open road. Arlo and I are on the road.
Hey everybody, here I am back down in the desert with a giant bowl of pinon, pine cones, and pine nuts. If you remember, about 2 months ago, I was up in northern Arizona out in the juniper and pinon pine forest, and I was out collecting tons of these pinon, pine nuts, and pine cones. And if you want to see the first half of this video, that would be called Pine Nuts Part 1. Just scroll back and you'll find that. Now we are at the second part of this video. Now I've let these pine cones sit in a warm place for the last couple months, and they've all opened up. Some of them were partially open, some of them were closed, and some of them were open already. And I've let them sit, and they've all pretty much opened up and exposed all of those pine nuts that are in there. I'll show you what that looks like. See all of the pine cones here, but you can see inside of the pine cone are the little pine nuts in the shell. And if you pull the pine nut out, it looks like this. So there is your little pinon pine nut in its shell. Now the first step that we need to do is we need to get all of these nuts out of all of these pine cones here. That's what we're going to do next. And then we need to crack all those nuts to get the actual pine nut out of the seed, out of the little shell. So there's really no easy way to do this that I know of. There are people that have come up with sort of mechanized versions of this, but traditionally, you know, the Native Americans would have had to do this by hand. So like the actual winnowing process of you know, all the steps of getting the shells out of the or the nuts out of the pine cones, and then the nuts out of the little shells. You know, it just takes time. So you know, they were traditionally, you know, kind of cracked on with a rock, you know, and I got the little nuts out of there. I have a bowl started here, and then once we get the all of the nuts out of the cones, I got these little, I got online what they call like pine nut crackers. This is like a little, sort of like a little thing, cracker to use that. I'm going to try this one. Also, here's another version of what they call a pine nut or pistachio cracker. And we'll see if these work really well or not. So I have no idea. I have never used those. But like I said, the first step here is to get all the nuts out of the cones, and then we'll start attacking the nuts. So I'm actually going to go old school and use my old Swiss Army knife. I'm going to get myself set up here, and I'm just going to try to pick these nuts. Actually, that works pretty well. Pretty quickly, I just took all the little pine nuts out of that cone there. So we'll just kind of slowly go through all of these and get them out. I have no idea how they do this sort of in the industrial way, where they pick and clean, you know, millions of pounds of pine nuts. I don't know, but we're kind of going to do it the old-fashioned way, by hand, and that's just going to take some time. So this is a sticky process. I'm doing this. These cones are still really covered with this pinon pine resin on there. that's okay. I love the smell of it. Now recently I've done multiple videos that really focus on the pinyon pine tree. I have several, this will be part 2 of a pinyon pine nut videos, but I also did pinyon pine nut soda, or actually pinyon needle soda, and then I also did pinyon pine resin salve, you know, as a balm for minor cuts or minor skin irritation. So there's a bunch of videos on the pinyon pine, which I've done recently, and this is one that I've been working up to doing because I was waiting for all my pine cones to kind of pop open. So now some of these, in some of these cones, you can see that the pine nut is like a dark brown color, just like that. And then some of them have a real kind of light, sort of blonde, tan color. Now, I know from past experience that these little light colored ones are empty. So any of the pine cones that I have here that have lots of those light colored pine nuts in here, I'm not even going to bother with. I'm going to go get one of them out of there, and I'll crack it open, and we'll see. But pretty much, I can guarantee that one's too small for our little cracker. Let's see about this one. Yeah, you can see it just kind of shattered into powder. Those little light colored ones are almost always empty, so I'm not even going to bother with those. I'm really just going to concentrate on the cones that have these dark brown pine nuts in there. Ooh. A lot of work. Anyway, so far I have this nice big bowl of pine nuts here that I've taken out, and then I'm going to finish going through all these and getting the rest of these nuts out. And I have another box that has actually some more, so I want to see what I can get out of all of this. But I might get started on cracking the nuts so I can show you that. So I'm going to kind of go through the rest of this bowl here, and then I'm going to start cracking them and kind of go move on to the next step. All right, like I said, this is the start of my pine nuts. I have another box. I'm not going to bring you through this whole thing where I do all of them, but I want to start the process of cracking some of these and see how that goes, and see how many of these actually have nuts in them. Actually, this cracker, that one works really well. Let me see. Look at that. There is a pine nut right there. Try to do it gently. I kind of broke that other one a little. This one, yeah, that one came out a lot nicer. You can see that even with a little cracker tool, that this is a tedious little project. I don't know if you can see this. See that little pine nut there? Look at that. Beautiful. Ooh, beautiful pine nut. And that's one. Well, two, actually. We're going to go through all of these nuts and crack. This tool works really well. There it is. Look at that. Beautiful pine nut, and that's what we're looking for. So, you know, one at a time here is a long process, but we're going to do it. One at a time. And if you do them gently, like this, they come out nice. Look at that. Nice pine nut. One at a time. And just like anything else, whenever I decide to sit in the backyard and make a video, someone starts blowing, their landscapers start blowing. It seems like every day of the week there's somebody blowing their yard. It's definitely is a lot of work, but fortunately with Harriet here helping me, we should get through all these. And like I said, I have another box of seeds, so I'm gonna, as soon as I crack all these, I'm going to get into those other ones and see how many I can get. So it's gonna be a time-consuming thing. I'm gonna be doing this all afternoon, I think. But the cool thing is, the majority of these dark ones, which I have here separated, do have nuts in them, which is pretty cool. I just need to pick out some of these lighter ones, which I know are going to be empty. These light ones are just all empty. Alright, I'm not going to make you sit through this whole process here, so I'm going to turn the camera off. I'm going to work on the rest of these nuts, and then I'm going to see what we end up with, and then we'll be back at a later time here, and we will make our pine nut brittle, which I'll probably make tomorrow, because this is going to take me probably the rest of the afternoon to go through all of these and the rest of my pine cones. So anyway, I will show you what I end up with at the end of the day, and then I will probably tomorrow in the morning we will make our pine nut brittle. So anyway, see you in a little bit. All right, here we are. It's the next day because it took me forever to clean out all those pine cones and crack all those pine nuts. And we ended up with this amount of pine nuts. And well, it was well worth the work because let me tell you, they taste delicious, and there's nothing like fresh pine nuts. They have that even more intense flavor, a little sweeter, it seems to me, than the ones you buy in the store. So anyway, I don't know how much this is, about a cup, I think, of pine nuts. So what I really want to do with this, and I had this idea before I even collected the pine nuts, is that I wanted to make some pine nut brittle, like peanut brittle. So I have all the ingredients right here for our pine nut brittle. It's super easy, should be pretty quick. And it should be super tasty, especially with pine nuts that we went out and collected ourselves. So that's even the best part of it. So it's fun to go out and forage for food, but then come home and make something really delicious with it. Okay, so all of our ingredients, we have, of course, our pine nuts, sugar, a little bit of corn syrup, some water, a couple tablespoons of butter, some baking soda, and some vanilla, which are pretty much the normal ingredients that you would put in a like a peanut brittle. I'm going to add some chiltepines to give it a little bit of heat. So I have them in this little grinder thing, but these are just regular chiltepine peppers. So I'm going to add a little bit of that, of course, because I got to put chiltepines in everything. But that's our ingredients. We're going to take all this and we're going to move over to the stove, and then we're going to get started. So now that we're over at the stove, we're going to get everything started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add our sugar to our pot, and then our water, and our corn syrup. Okay, so now I'm going to turn on the heat, and we are going to start bringing this up to temperature. We want this to kind of bubble a little bit until it becomes a nice golden amber color, and then we're going to add the rest of our ingredients. I also have a pastry brush and some water. Most people will take the water and they'll kind of brush around the edges as this is simmering, so that no like sugar crystals and stuff start to appear on there and it doesn't burn along the edges. So you can use the water to kind of wipe this down, and we'll do that in a little bit. I've also seen some people just put a lid on this, and then the steam that comes up and drips off of the lid and kind of runs down the sides of the pot will also do the same thing. So that's up to you. And then while that is coming up to temperature, we have our butter, our baking soda, which I'm just going to put all in the same container. I'm also going to put a little bit of vanilla in there as well. And then I'm going to take some of my chiltepines and I'm going to grind some of those into my container there. And we'll add that in all together. And I might even take some of this and put some on top once we pour it out. But for the time being, we're just going to add this amount here. All right, so our sugar is starting to come to a full boil. And at this point, you can take your water, kind of brush along the edges, so we have no kind of caramelization along the edges, just like that. Yeah. And we're just going to let this do its thing until it becomes a nice sort of amber color. And that looks about right there. So we're going to take this off the heat, and we're going to add our butter, and that's the baking powder, and then our nuts will all go in here. You can see how that baking soda really makes it foam up. So we're going to take it over to our cookie sheet, which I've layered with our parchment paper, and I've sprayed it with cooking spray. And then we want to quickly kind of spread this around because this hardens pretty quickly. Let's spread this around. Ooh. That really hardened fast. All right, so there we go. There is our pine nut brittle. We just poured it out. It's still pretty hot. At this point, if you'd like, you can add a little bit of salt to the top. Get that sort of salted caramel kind of thing going. And then I'm going to add a little bit more of my chiltepine. So I'm going to grind just a little bit of chiltepine on top. And that'll all stick in to the top because it is still warm. And we're going to wait for this to cool off. It's going to take a little bit time for this to harden up, but when it does, then we're going to break it up and it'll be ready to eat. I can't wait. So just a little while, maybe 10-15 minutes, we'll come back and we'll check it out. All right, there you have it. There's my giant pine nut brittle. That's the fun part. We get to break it up. See? Oh yeah, look at that. Breaks up nicely. Break this into some pieces. Like that. Look at that. That is beautiful. Oh man. Wow. All right. Look at that. Doesn't that look pretty? Got some the thicker ones in the middle and some of the thinner ones on the side, depending on how you like it. it actually hardened really quick. So by the time I got it out of the pot, I couldn't spread it out as quickly as I wanted to, but I need to move faster next time. But actually, this is actually pretty nice. But I'm gonna put it on the little plate. Like that. Looks really pretty. I won't put it all on there. All right, there it is. Look how pretty that looks. That is our pine nut brittle, which we made from pine nuts that we collected ourselves. And we harvested them. We let the pine cones open. We took the seeds out. We cracked the nuts. You know, the whole process from beginning to end. So, and then made our final product of this pine nut brittle. It's sweet and crisp, just like it should be. The nuts are so delicious, and that chiltepin that I put in there, oh man, that is key. It adds a nice little burn to it. And then the salt that I put on top, it's just a nice combination of salty and sweet and hot, just the way I like it, and crunchy, and buttery, and all those good things, everything that you like. It's so good. This is going to be a big hit. We're going to a little pool get together tomorrow, and this is going to be a big hit for that. Everybody's going to love this. And it was fun to make, so I could tell the story of how we made it. That's so good. Well, I've had a lot of sugar lately, and I don't normally eat sugar at all, but the kind of projects I've been doing lately are sweet. So I've definitely got my fill of sweet stuff, but not to worry. I have lots of people that I can share this with, so I won't be eating all this, thankfully. Anyway, if you like this video, please like, please subscribe. That always helps us a lot, and we will see you in the next one. All right, bye-bye. Oh, and I will attach the first part, Pine Nuts Part 1, to the end of this video. So if you didn't see the first part, you can see that. Anyway, we'll see you in the next one. All right,
load up the pans and fishing poles. Arlo and I, we hit the open road.